I got something here I want to throw up on the screen to sort of talk to you guys about because it happened a day or two ago on Twitter. If you guys don't know who Jeremy Boring is, he's I guess, the founder of Daily Wire, which is like a big, conservative platform for guys like Matt Walsh and
Ben Shapiro.
Candace Owens and Jordan Peterson and all these guys, right? So he was talking about the
Oh, I
red
have
pill
seen
attack
this.
on marriage. I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you guys see it?
I've seen it a couple of times. Yeah,
Yeah, let me just read it.
it's
I think
making the
it,
rounds.
Yeah, I think it made the rounds because what's her name, Pearl? She does her typical flick boogers at something, and it gets attention because she's a gal. But it says over here, divorce is so the red pill attack on marriage is evil. Divorce is also evil. No fault divorce is particularly evil. Divorce when children are in the picture is one of the most evil acts a person can engage in, and I agree with all of that 100%. All of these acts of evil are common because evil is common. We are all given it from time to time. That does not change what they are. The fact that women initiate 80% of divorce is evident that some manifestations of evil are more common in women. Something society, and frustratingly Christian society, has been trying to obscure since we turned over all of our moral authority to women in the 20th century. This is where he's starting to lose accuracy. Okay, but we'll keep going. It is also evidence of a deep societal sickness, one that creates enormous incentives for women to divorce and virtually not through, absolutely none for men. And I covered this in my book in depth. If you guys haven't read the Unplugged Alpha, get it. The red pill rightly observes much of the sickness, and they even rightly diagnose much of it. But they then turn on the institution itself, an institution fundamental to human flourishing, male flourishing, the flourishing of children, and the flourish of society. Now, let me just pause on this for a minute, and let me make it absolutely freaking clear. Do you actually believe that we got here today because of marriage? We got here today because of our ancestors. Marriage is a new phenomenon. It's only been around for 10,000 years, and the origins of marriage are the acquisition of in-laws. It had nothing to do with love, family, any of those things. It was to form a tribe and to sort of merge, under the bond or the guise of a marriage.
And to keep the plebs in line too, so they're not wandering bands of barbarians.
Exactly. Like, there was no marriage in the days of Genghis Khan. There was no marriage in like the days all prior to all that. And yet, they still managed to multiply. I mean, you don't have to have fucking marriage for human flourishing or male flourishing. The state that it's in today, like the actual act of getting married, is just retarded. You would have to have an imbalance in your brain chemically to march into the slaughterhouse of marriage, because you just don't pay attention to what it is. It's not a good deal. It's a very, very bad deal. And again, I break down all the reasons why in my book. I've covered it in podcasts before. Anyway, I'll keep going. Marriage makes men men. Okay, this is where we get into the manning up shit. Marriage makes men men. Actually, what it does is it makes most men pussies. It pussifies most men and puts them through betatization through 1,000 concessions. Marriage saves men and is a picture of the salvation of men. This is like almost a quote from Jordan Peterson's 3-part series on marriage that they put on the Daily Wire, which I also broke down, by the way, in a podcast and explained why it's dumb and doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We should fight to make marriage marriage. We must defend men's rights in marriage. Well, how's that working? Like, why are the gals not getting together and marching on Capitol Hill to do something to change the fucking laws? All they're doing is they're saying words. I've said this a million times. Every time some chick says, oh, marriage laws aren't fair to men, and I don't blame them for not getting married, and we have to change that. Good. Get the girls together, make a bunch of fucking signs, go down to Capitol Hill and say something about it, because they don't listen to men. They laugh at men when we say things, right? But we must not abandon marriage. Okay, buddy. To abandon marriage is to abandon the fight beneath the fight in which all other fights are premised. Anti-marriage is anti-life. You cannot be conservative and anti-marriage. Blah, blah, blah. That's what I said there. So blah, blah, blah. Shame on you, man. Be a better beta and wife up. Got it. Anyway, he actually, had something to say over here about manning up, which I thought was hilarious. He said, manning up and leading a family against the odds in the tough and unfair circumstances created by a feminized society that hates men and male leadership does not make you a beta. Yes, it does, Jeremy. This is the dumbest thing that a man can do, is expose himself and his wealth and his ability to parent his kids to a situation that looks like marriage to the state. What do you guys think?
A lot of these
Save men
tradcons
from
get
what?
it wrong. Yeah, these tradcons have this fantasy that it's going to be like the 1950s. And then I always remind people the 50s weren't all of sunshine and rainbows. If you the DNA test going back to it, I found out very quickly that my grandpas are stepping out. My uncles had multiple kids. I'm surprised I don't have a brother out there somewhere. But going back to the 1950s, that was actually very common. So they paint this image as Moff and I covered this on Thursday of how the world should be. It's never been that way. It's never going to be that way. And then you get guys like Steven Crowder, and I get these coaching guys all the time. Hey, man, I did everything right. Like, I'm a good old boy. I'm Christian. I'm conservative. I did what should be done as according to societal standards, and they just completely get shit on. And then I come on and say, okay, here's how the world actually works. Here's how you actually get ahead. And guys just blow me up in the comments. Oh, no, you're full of shit. Like, how's your plan working? Because my plan's awesome. Like, you guys all see the results.
Saving men from what? I'd like him to explain that. He says marriage saves men. From what exactly?
Well, that's the
I think
whole
under the
wet
guise of
dream
Christianity.
like but that's the whole
salvation.
wet dream of the traditional conservative and these Christian guys that are doing the Daily Wire is just man up and get married. And it's like, okay, maybe these guys have a slight advantage because they're successful, they're wealthy, they have influence, but they're still plugged in betas, right? Like Matt Walsh, was a name that came up in like one of the threads there, somewhere, and he's got 6 kids, married for 10 years, all that sort of stuff. But none of these guys truly understand the nature of marriage, divorce, and what it takes to keep a woman obsessed with you and attracted to you over the long-term basis. And when you put yourself in an environment like you're in the kitchen, man, like the heat is hot and you're in the boiler. When you're dealing with a marriage type of situation, 50% of them fail. After 8 years, less than 13% of people are still in a state of love, and less than 3% of people are in a state of bliss. So you're telling me that you're going to sign up for a deal that encourages her to break the contract, to take like I have a friend right now. I was talking to him a couple of nights ago, and we have a mutual friend who was part of EO in Toronto. He's paying $40,000 a month in fucking alimony and child support. None of the kids live with her. She has a house that's 6,500 square foot plus another property. None of the kids want to talk to her because she's a psychopath, and he's forced under family law to pay her $40,000 a month. And it doesn't stop there, by the way. She's actually petitioning the courts to get $100,000 a month, right? Like, this is the environment that women live in. They were married.
Yeah, but he gets to.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
They were married for 20 years, and one day, she just said, I don't want to be married anymore. I want to get divorced, and wanted to untie the knot. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, what do I do? There's nothing I can do, right? Like, he tried to save it. He did the typical beta thing, like, like, let's do marriage counseling and all that sort of stuff. But there's no incentive for women to stay married when family law and, the court system incentivize. Like, if you can get $40,000 a month not living with your husband and he's forced to pay you that, why would you stay in a fucking marriage in the house where maybe you're getting, I don't know, a fucking allowance for $5,000 or $6,000 as a stay-at-home mom to take care of groceries and pay the bills, right? You can get all the money and not have to put up with his,
You ever heard that
either too?
The comedian summed it up. It could have been Robin Williams who said, "I'm never getting married again." He says, "I'm just going to meet a woman I hate and buy her house."
Well,
yeah.
At least this guy gets to rest assured that he manned up and did the right thing, and he reaps all the social and societal benefits of that. First of all, two things.
How do men get treated as a result of manning up? Like, this is what they can get. It doesn't
make
sense.
His statement was trying to shame you into something. If I started shaming you, Rich, saying you're too wealthy, your car's too big, what am I looking for you to do?
Well,
right.
it's clearly envy is what it is.
Envy and giving you up, because you have something that's envious. So essentially, to these people, someone been single and not committed, they're envy of that. So they kind of have to shame you into doing what they've done. I'm just wondering, that statement from that guy, Jeremy Boring, has he gotten married recently? How long has he been married? I want to know all them stats.
I think all of those Daily Wire guys have all been married for a long period of time, and they're shilling their lives. But I mean, like, look, I've said this to lots of people privately. Take a look around at everybody that that's married or living with a woman, in a state that would be viewed by the government as marriage, and you tell me what percentage of them are actually thrilled and happy in their relationship, have an abundance of enthusiastic intimacy, with their wife or their girlfriend. Tell me, like, what is the secret formula? Because I've I've been saying this for years now. It's like, if you have a secret, like the secret sauce to success in a marriage where you don't expose yourself to any risk whatsoever, and it's a safe protocol where you still have, you know, authority in the household and that responsibility goes hand in hand. Tell me who's got the secret sauce, who's got the solution to this, because I'd love to have them on a podcast, right?
When it comes down to it, it's all this tradcon notion of the way women should be. It's male solipsism. It's funny how hypocritical a lot of guys are in this space. Like, oh, women are solipsistic or they're hypergamous. Guess what? When you get game, you become hypergamous as a guy too. You're always going for a better chick. Solipsism, this is male solipsism right here, thinking, well, I want a good, virtuous, traditional women. Ergo, women should respect this. Women don't think that way. They work on attraction triggers. And if you know how to build and maintain attraction, and that involves not giving away your power to her to do that over the long term. Rich, you run that model with the LTR thing. I run the MLTR thing. We know that that is how that works. And then you get these guys, oh, I married my first wife, or we were both virgins till marriage. Bro, you don't even know how the game works. How are you going out there giving people bad advice in terms of how the game works? And then guys like me can skirt along, get these girls, and the guys know none the wiser. They've never seen it before. It'd blow their mind.
So that's one of the key elements to a successful marriage is she's a virgin when you get married, right? Like the chances of you getting divorced and her being unhappy in a marriage go down dramatically.
They do.
Dramatically, massively. So it's like, you know, like all these women that are all pushing for marriage, it's like, oh, are you a virgin? You're not? Then shut the fuck up. Okay.
Yeah, someone asked me earlier in my chat, hey, would you ever consider a long-term monogamous relationship, live-in, or a marriage? And yeah, you know, in my evolution in life, there could be a point where I go the tradcon route. I don't see that happening, but it could happen at some point. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 20 years. And I always say that if I get into a traditional institution, then it has to be under traditional premises and with a traditional girl. Otherwise, I would not consider it. I would have to be Christian. She would have to be Christian, and she would have to be a virgin. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because I get good behavior out of them. But yeah. I think it's funny you bring that up. I want to get married now after riding the carousel, or I'm post-wall. It's like, well,
right. No, my favorite is when they go and get right with God and they've like repented
early
their sins
30s
of their 20s. Yeah. It's like, get at it. Like really, like you think that you can erase your entire history and all the imprinting and all the baggage you're carrying around? Come on.
And they get these tradcon betas. Oh, let me give her roses. Let me give her the ring. And these guys are oblivious to not know that this chick's gotten plowed out. She's done orgies in Cancun at some of the resorts. She's got guys that have been in the game, and as you evolve in game, you see stuff. You're like, oh my God, it is more decrepit and more. There's more degradation than I ever could imagine.
We brought it up before, Rich. I think that the wedding industry is what, a $6 billion industry. And if you're telling me that,
and so is the divorce industry, right?
Yeah, a $6 billion industry isn't marketing itself, isn't telling people that you're a failure if you're not doing our stuff and buying our product and getting into people's heads. Of course people will want that.
3 months salary on a diamond ring. That is insane.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If I were to marry a girl,
I wouldn't spend that on a steak.
If I were to marry a girl that,
and I have to come close. I would buy a Wagyu cow if I could.
Or guys, if you are thinking of getting married, here's one that I used to ask girls. Like, hypothetically, if we were to get married, like, I'm not into child slavery or anything like that. So would you do a blood diamond, or would you be fine paying a third, getting a perfect, flawless lab diamond? And it's amazing how many girls, even like your lefty girls, right-wing girls, it doesn't matter. They want the real diamond mined by little African slave children rather than the perfect, flawless diamond. So it's really funny, that double moral right there.
They couldn't know the difference.
This thing all just goes back to, you know, guys that have no experience shaming other guys into what they think they should do. And it goes like, there's no we here. Like, Jeremy, I don't know who you are. There's no we. I'm not in your tribe. I don't know who you are. You don't speak for me. You don't speak for all men. Like, there's nothing that relates the two of us other than like the appendage we have and the chromosomes in our DNA. I saw something that just got released. I saw this on X the other day, and I can't remember who exactly reported it, but there's now studies that are linking when we talk like the type, and they use the word incel in quotes, but when you typically hear women talking about, you know, misogynistic and incel language, what the research is actually coming out and showing, I don't know if it's by polling or surveys, but it's the more experience that a particular guy has with women and sort of the higher his notch count, the more likely he is to display these what are otherwise known as traditional incel misogynist views on women, which I thought was really interesting. And it just goes to show, and, you know, when you have guys that are propping up women on these pedestals and they talk about stupid bullshit, you know, buzzwords like the divine feminine and goddessry and all that kind of dumbass stuff, that's how you know you can spot a dude like, this is the first girl that ever touched your dick and you decided to put a ring on it. Like you have no experience. You don't know anything about women. You know one woman and that's it. And so I thought that was a really interesting sort of finding because it's always the insult of you can't possibly think this way or say these things because you don't get women. It's like, actually, the reason that I do think this way and the reason that I know the things that I know and the reason that I hold these views and opinions is because I do get women. So it's really interesting that that's now starting to come out and manifest itself in reality.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here and pin down below in the top comment. You'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.